Whose kid is this? Graham snaps, scanning the room. Seriously. Who thought it was appropriate to bring a child into a board meeting? The finger points first. Then comes the laugh. Graham Rothwell's index finger hovers 3 inches from Aaliyah Monroe's face, close enough that she can smell the bourbon on his breath, see the gold Patek Philippe catching light from the crystal chandeliers above. The boardroom at Rothwell Industries stretches behind him like a cathedral of glass and polished walnut, 47 floors above Midtown Manhattan, where the honking taxis sound like distant insects and the people look like ants. Aaliyah doesn't step back. She's 12 years old. 4'9". Wearing Target flats her mother bought on clearance and a navy dress they ironed twice this morning in their Brownsville apartment because the wrinkles wouldn't stay gone. Her hair is braided tight, her grandmother's work, the night before she died, fingers weaving even as the hospice nurse checked her pulse. You are lying, kid. Graham's voice cuts through the mahogany-paneled room like a gavel. 16 executives line the walls, men in charcoal suits, women in pencil skirts, all of them frozen mid-breath, coffee cups suspended, phones face down on the table. The air smells like leather and cold brew and something else Aaliyah can't name. Power, maybe. Or fear pretending to be confidence. She doesn't blink. I'm not lying, she says. Her voice comes out smaller than she practiced. Quieter than she needed. But it comes out. Graham throws his head back and laughs, a sharp, theatrical bark that ricochets off the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Fifth Avenue. It's the kind of laugh designed to make others join in. And they do. Nervous chuckles ripple through the room. A woman near the door covers her mouth. A man in wire-rimmed glasses shakes his head like he's embarrassed for her. Aaliyah's mother, Naomi Monroe, sits 3 feet behind her daughter, hands folded so tight her knuckles have gone pale. She's 34 but looks older today, gray blouse, slacks from Goodwill, a gold cross necklace that belonged to her father. She doesn't speak. She promised Aaliyah she wouldn't. This is her daughter's moment, even if it destroys them both. Whose kid is this? Graham snaps, scanning the room. Seriously. Who thought it was appropriate to bring a child into a board meeting? Silence. One executive clears his throat. Another pretends to check his watch. Graham turns back to Aaliyah, and now the humor is gone. His face is red. A vein pulses near his temple. He leans down until they're eye level, and his voice drops to something cold and surgical. Listen very carefully, he says. This is a billion-dollar company. You don't get to walk in here and play pretend. You don't get to waste my time. Do you understand me? Aaliyah's throat tightens. Her palms are sweating. She hates being stared at. Hates loud men. Hates rooms where everyone watches and no one helps. But she remembers her grandfather's voice. The last thing he said before the hospital took him. If you ever have to stand alone, stand straight. She straightens her spine. I'm not playing pretend, she says. You just don't know the whole story. Graham's jaw clenches. He stands to his full height, 6'2", custom-tailored Tom Ford, Italian loafers that cost more than Naomi's rent. He snaps his fingers toward the door. Security, he barks. Get them out of here. Now. 2 guards in black uniforms step forward. Naomi's breath hitches. Aaliyah feels her mother's hand reach for her shoulder, but before anyone moves, a voice slices through the room. Actually. Everyone turns. Harold Bennett, the company's general counsel, stands near the window. 61 years old. Silver hair. Reading glasses dangling from a chain. He's holding a manila folder, worn, creased, the kind that's been opened and closed 1,000 times. We should probably hear her out, Harold says. The room goes still. Graham stares at him like he's just spoken Mandarin. Harold. Don't embarrass yourself. Harold doesn't look away. Mr. Rothwell, he says slowly, carefully, like he's defusing a bomb. There's a contract. That word hangs in the air. Contract. Aaliyah reaches into her backpack, a pink JanSport with a broken zipper, and pulls out a second folder. It looks absurdly small against the 30-foot conference table, the billion-dollar decisions usually made here, the lives spent and broken by signatures just like the ones inside. She slides it forward. It stops in front of Graham's hand. This was signed in 1994, Aaliyah says. In Detroit. Between my grandfather, Leonard Monroe, and you. The room inhales. Graham's face drains of color. Leonard Monroe. The name no one said aloud in this building for 20 years. The co-founder erased from the company's origin story. The brilliant engineer from Gary, Indiana, who built the first automated manufacturing system that made Rothwell Industries explode from a garage startup to a Fortune 500 empire. The man Graham Rothwell quietly, methodically, buried. Harold opens the folder. His hands shake. Page 17, Aaliyah whispers. Graham Rothwell doesn't sleep well anymore. He wakes at 4:47 a.m. every morning in his Tribeca penthouse, 12,000 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows, a bed imported from Denmark that cost $43,000 and still doesn't stop the dreams. He lies there in the dark, listening to his third wife breathe in the guest room down the hall, and he counts things. Companies acquired. 31. Employees laid off. 18,462. Senators on speed dial. 9. Marriages failed. 3. Children who return his calls. 0. He presses the button on his nightstand. The curtains retract. The city spreads below him like a glowing organism, lights and sirens and movement that never stops. He owns a piece of it. A significant piece. A measurable piece. And yet, he showers in a bathroom larger than most people's apartments. He puts on a $6,000 suit. He drinks espresso made by a machine that cost more than a used car. He rides down 83 floors in a private elevator that opens directly into his waiting Bentley. And yet, the car smells like leather and silence. His driver doesn't speak. His phone buzzes with messages he won't read. His calendar is full of meetings where people agree with him before he finishes sentences. He built this. He is this. And somewhere along the way, the thing that made him feel powerful started making him feel nothing at all. By the time he reaches Rothwell Industries, he's already forgotten the feeling. The building is his temple. 62 floors of steel and glass. His name etched into the lobby in letters 3 feet tall. Security guards who nod as he passes. Assistants who scatter like birds. He walks through the marble atrium, past the bronze statue of himself shaking hands with a senator, past the wall of framed magazine covers where his face appears 9 times, and into the executive elevator that takes him directly to the top floor. The boardroom is ready. Coffee brewing. Pastries arranged. Chairs positioned exactly 18 inches apart. He doesn't know why he's here today. Harold called it an urgent matter requiring immediate board presence. Graham almost said no. He has a tea time at noon. But Harold doesn't use the word urgent lightly, and Graham has learned to trust the people who make problems disappear. The others arrive in clusters. Executives. Lawyers. The CFO who looks perpetually nervous. The COO who laughs too loud at Graham's jokes. They take their seats. They open laptops. They wait. And then the door opens. A black woman walks in. 30s. Simple clothes. Quiet face. She looks like someone's secretary, or maybe a paralegal, or maybe someone who shouldn't be here at all. Graham barely registers her. But then he sees the girl. 12, maybe. Braids. Target flats. A backpack slung over one shoulder like she just came from school. Graham frowns. Harold, what is this? Harold stands near the window, holding a folder Graham doesn't recognize. Mr. Rothwell, this is Naomi Monroe and her daughter, Aaliyah. And? They're here about a contract. Graham's frown deepens. Contracts are Harold's job. Paperwork is beneath him. Then handle it. Why am I here? Aaliyah takes a step forward. And that's when she says it. I own this company. The words land like stones in water. Graham blinks. Processes. Then laughs, sharp, reflexive, the way you laugh at a punchline you didn't see coming. But the girl doesn't laugh back. She stands there, small and still and serious, and something in her face makes Graham's laughter die in his throat. He looks at Harold. Is this a joke? Harold's expression doesn't change. No, sir. Graham looks back at the girl. At her worn shoes. At her mother's trembling hands. At the backpack with the broken zipper. And for the first time in 20 years, Graham Rothwell feels something he doesn't recognize. Uncertainty. The girl reaches into her backpack. Aaliyah's fingers find it before her eyes do. The coin. It sits in the bottom of her backpack, wrapped in a square of red fabric her grandfather tore from a ribbon the night he made the promise. She's carried it every day for 6 years, since she was 6 years old, since the funeral in Chicago, since her mother found the box under his bed and opened it with shaking hands. The coin is old. Dull copper. Scratched and bent. On one side, someone carved 2 initials, LM. On the other side, AM. Leonard Monroe. Aaliyah Monroe. She doesn't take it out. Not yet. She just touches it, and the boardroom disappears. Detroit. February 1994. 24 years ago. Leonard Monroe stands in a garage that smells like motor oil and sawdust and instant coffee gone cold. He's 31 years old. Skinny. Brilliant. Exhausted. His hands are covered in grease. His back aches from sleeping on a cot in the corner. He hasn't seen his wife in 3 days because he's been here, building the thing that's going to save them. The manufacturing system. It's not pretty. Exposed wires. Recycled motors. A control panel built from circuit boards he soldered himself. But it works. It's faster than anything Detroit's seen. More efficient. More adaptable. It can cut production time by 40% and labor costs by half. He knows what this means. This is the thing that changes everything. Graham Rothwell stands 10 feet away, younger than, 40 years old, still hungry, still building his empire one acquisition at a time. He's wearing jeans and a flannel shirt because he's trying to look like one of the guys, but his watch gives him away. Rolex. $20,000. Show me again, Graham says. Leonard hits the switch. The system hums to life. Gears turn. Pistons fire. The prototype part moves through the line, cut, shaped, polished, complete, in 90 seconds. Graham whistles. Jesus, Leonard. This is it. Leonard nods. He's too tired to smile. This is it. How much do you need? 200,000. Maybe less. I can stretch it. Graham walks the length of the machine, running his hand along the frame. And you built this yourself? Yeah. No one else knows how it works. Just me. Graham stops. Turns. Looks at Leonard with something Leonard can't quite read. What do you want? Graham asks. Leonard blinks. What do you mean? I mean long term. 5 years from now. 10. What do you want? Leonard thinks about his wife. About the baby coming. About the apartment in Gary where the heat doesn't work and the landlord won't fix the stairs. He thinks about his father, who worked 40 years in a steel mill and died with nothing. I want to build things, Leonard says. Good things. Things that last. Graham nods slowly. Then he smiles. Let's make a deal. Brooklyn. Present day. 4:47 a.m. Aaliyah wakes to her mother crying in the kitchen. She doesn't get out of bed right away. She lies there in the dark, listening to the muffled sounds through the thin wall, Naomi's breath catching, the scrape of a chair, the click of the stove as she makes tea she won't drink. Their apartment is small. 2 bedrooms. Carpet that won't come clean. A radiator that clangs at night. They've lived here since Aaliyah was 3, since Leonard died, since the money stopped coming and the lawyers stopped returning calls. Aaliyah gets up. Pads barefoot into the kitchen. Her mother sits at the table, hands wrapped around a mug, staring at the folder. The contract. Mama, Aaliyah whispers. Naomi looks up. Her eyes are red. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. Aaliyah sits across from her. The folder is open. Papers spread out. Signatures. Dates. Legal language Aaliyah doesn't fully understand but has memorized anyway. What if they don't believe us? Naomi asks. Aaliyah reaches across the table. Takes her mother's hand. They will. What if they laugh? Then we let them. Naomi's face crumples. Baby, I don't want them to hurt you. Aaliyah squeezes tighter. Grandpa said if you ever have to stand alone, stand straight. He said that to me too, Naomi whispers. They sit in silence. The radiator clangs. A siren wails outside. The city wakes up around them, indifferent and enormous and full of people who will never know their names. Aaliyah touches the coin in her pocket. And she makes a promise. The boardroom. Now. Aaliyah slides the folder across the table. Graham Rothwell stares at it like it might explode. Harold picks it up. Opens it. Starts reading. And 30 seconds later, his face goes white. Harold Bennett reads the same paragraph 4 times before he understands what it means. His voice, when it finally comes, sounds like it's traveling through water. Section 17.4, he says. Contingency ownership clause. Graham snatches the folder. His eyes scan the page. His lips move as he reads. And then he stops. This isn't enforceable, he says. Harold takes off his glasses. Cleans them. Puts them back on. Sir, I've spent 48 hours with 3 independent attorneys reviewing this document. It's notarized. Witnessed. Registered with the state of Michigan. And it's ironclad. What does it say? Someone asks. Harold looks at Aaliyah. Then at Graham. Then back at the contract. It says that if Rothwell Industries ever exceeds a valuation of $5 billion, or if the company goes public, or if Mr. Rothwell sells a controlling share to any outside entity, then ownership automatically transfers to the bloodline of Leonard Monroe. The room erupts. Voices overlap. Chairs scrape. Someone drops a coffee cup, it shatters on the marble floor, dark liquid spreading like a stain. That's insane. Why would he sign that? There has to be a loophole. When did we hit 5 billion? Quiet, Graham roars. Silence crashes down. Graham's face is the color of raw meat. He stares at the contract like it's a living thing. Leonard was broke when he died, he says. He died in a county hospital. In Gary, Indiana. He had nothing. Aaliyah's voice cuts through. He had this. Graham's head snaps toward her. You don't understand what you're talking about, kid. Your grandfather. He stops himself. Jaw clenched. Breathing hard. My grandfather what? Aaliyah asks. He left. You made him leave. The air goes electric. Graham takes a step forward. I made him. I made him walk away from the company he helped build. I made him disappear for 20 years. Yes, Aaliyah says simply. That's a lie. Then why is it in the contract? Graham's fist slams the table. The sound ricochets like a gunshot. Because he was paranoid. Because he didn't trust anyone. Because he thought. He stops again. His chest heaves. Harold clears his throat. Sir, there's more. More? Page 23. Graham flips through the pages. Finds it. Reads. His face goes from red to white. No, he whispers. What? The CFO asks. What does it say? Harold adjusts his glasses. It says that any legal challenge to this contract results in immediate transfer of ownership and full financial audit of all company transactions dating back to the contract's signing date. The silence is absolute. Aaliyah watches them. 16 executives. Lawyers. Billionaires. Power brokers. And they all look like children who just found out the monster under the bed is real. There's one more thing, Harold says quietly. Everyone turns. Harold pulls out a second document. This one is older. The paper is yellowed. The ink is faded. But the signatures are still clear. This is a promissory note, Harold says. Signed by Graham Rothwell on March 14, 1994. It states that Leonard Monroe will receive 30% of all future profits from the manufacturing system he designed. In perpetuity. How much is that? Someone whispers. Harold doesn't blink. Approximately $4.3 billion. The room implodes. People stand. Shout. Grab phones. One executive stumbles toward the door. Another sits down hard, head in hands. Graham doesn't move. He stares at the contract. At the signatures. At the date. March 14, 1994. He remembers that day. Of course he remembers. The garage in Detroit. The machine humming. Leonard's hands covered in grease. Graham had brought a bottle of whiskey. They drank from paper cups. They shook hands. And Graham had smiled and said, "Don't worry, Leonard. I'll take care of you." He'd meant it. In that moment, he'd meant it. But then the company grew. And the money came. And Leonard started asking questions Graham didn't want to answer. About cuts. About contracts. About why his name wasn't on the patents. About why the profit-sharing checks kept getting smaller. And Graham had made a choice. A simple choice. A quiet choice. He'd buried Leonard Monroe in paperwork and legal fees and forced buyouts until Leonard had nothing left to fight with. Until he walked away. Until he disappeared into Gary, Indiana, and died 20 years later in a county hospital with $43 in his checking account. Graham had told himself it was business. Just business. He looks at Aaliyah now. At this 12-year-old girl in Target flats in a broken backpack. And he realizes something that makes his chest tighten. She's not angry. She's not vindictive. She's not even scared. She's sad. You don't remember him, do you? Aaliyah asks softly. Graham's throat is dry. What? My grandfather. You don't remember what he looked like. Or how he talked. Or why he built that machine. Graham says nothing. Aaliyah reaches into her pocket. Pulls out the coin. Sets it on the table. He carried this, she says. Every day. Until he died. Graham stares at it. And for the first time in 30 years, he feels something break inside his chest. Gary, Indiana. November 2018. 6 years ago. Aaliyah is 6 years old when her grandfather dies. She doesn't understand what's happening. She knows he's sick, has been sick for months, but adults keep using words that don't make sense. Cirrhosis. Hospice. Arrangements. She sits in a plastic chair in the hallway outside his room. The hospital smells like bleach and sadness. Machines beep behind every door. A nurse walks past with a cart that squeaks. Someone down the hall is crying. Her mother is inside with him. Aaliyah can hear their voices, low, urgent, broken. The door opens. Naomi steps out. Her face is wet. Baby, you can go in now. Aaliyah's chest tightens. Is he? No. But he wants to see you. Aaliyah walks in. The room is small. Beige walls. A window that looks out onto a parking lot. Her grandfather lies in the bed, thin and gray and barely there. Tubes run from his arm. A monitor blinks green numbers. He opens his eyes when she enters. Hey, ladybug, he whispers. Aaliyah climbs onto the chair next to him. Hi, Grandpa. He reaches for her hand. His skin is cold. Papery. She holds it carefully, like it might break. I need to tell you something, he says. Okay. Your grandma and we didn't get to finish what we started. Aaliyah doesn't understand. What do you mean? I built something. A long time ago. Something good. And someone took it. Who? Doesn't matter. But I left you something. Something that makes it right. He reaches under his pillow. Pulls out a small cloth pouch. Opens it. Inside is a coin. This is half, he says. The other half is in a place only you and your mama will find. Where? Under my bed. In a box. Red ribbon. He presses the coin into her palm. It's warm from his body heat. When you're ready, he says, you'll know what to do. Grandpa, I don't. Promise me. Aaliyah's throat closes. Promise what? That you'll stand straight. Even if you're alone. Especially if you're alone. Tears burn her eyes. I promise. He smiles. It's small. Tired. But real. Good girl, he whispers. 3 hours later, he's gone. Brooklyn. Present day. The night before the boardroom. Aaliyah can't sleep. She lies in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city outside, sirens, voices, bass thumping from a passing car. The coin is under her pillow. She reaches for it. Holds it up to the streetlight coming through the window. LM plus AM. Her mother appears in the doorway. Silhouette in the dim light. You okay, baby? Aaliyah sits up. What if it doesn't work? Naomi sits on the edge of the bed. Then we tried. What if they take it? What if they say it's fake? Then we fight. I'm scared, Mama. Naomi pulls her daughter close. Aaliyah buries her face in her mother's shoulder. She smells like lavender lotion and the detergent they buy in bulk from the dollar store. Your grandpa was scared too, Naomi whispers. Every day. But he never stopped building. He never stopped believing things could be better. Did you love him? Aaliyah asks. So much. Do you miss him? Every single day. They sit in silence. The radiator clangs. A helicopter passes overhead. The city keeps moving, indifferent to their fear. Tomorrow, Naomi says, you walk in there like you own the place. Aaliyah pulls back. Looks at her mother. But I do own the place. Naomi's face breaks into a smile. Then a laugh. Then tears. Yeah, baby, she whispers. You do. The boardroom. Now. Harold closes the folder. The CFO stands abruptly. This is insane. We need to call legal. We need to. Sit down, Graham says quietly. Everyone freezes. Graham looks at Aaliyah. Really looks at her. And something in his face shifts. How old are you? He asks. 12. And you understand what this means? Yes, sir. He nods slowly. Then he turns to Harold. What are our options? Harold hesitates. Honestly? None that don't involve significant legal and financial exposure. Someone mutters, Jesus Christ. Graham looks back at Aaliyah. What do you want? And that's when Aaliyah says the thing that changes everything. I want you to remember him. Manhattan. 2019 to 2025. The years between. Naomi Monroe becomes a woman possessed. She doesn't call it that. She calls it research. She calls it due diligence. She calls it honoring my father's memory. But Aaliyah watches her mother disappear into it, into boxes of papers spread across their kitchen table, into late-night phone calls with lawyers who charge by the minute, into library computers where she prints documents she can't afford to print. The first year, they find nothing. Leonard's old business partner in Detroit is dead. The garage where he built the machine is a Dollar General. The patents are registered under Rothwell Industries exclusively. Leonard's name appears nowhere. It's like he never existed. But Naomi doesn't stop. She files Freedom of Information requests. She drives to Michigan with Aaliyah in a borrowed Honda, sleeping in rest stops, eating gas station sandwiches. She knocks on doors in Gary until someone remembers Leonard, an old man who says, "Yeah, I knew Leo. Smart guy." "Shane, what happened?" "What happened?" Naomi asks. The old man looks away. He trusted the wrong person. Year 2, they find a box in a storage unit Leonard rented under a fake name. Inside, receipts, blueprints, photographs of the machine in various stages of development, and a letter addressed to whoever finds this. I knew he would take everything. I knew, and I signed anyway. Because I believed in the work more than I believed in protecting myself. If you're reading this, I'm gone. But the contract is real. Page 17. Don't let him bury me twice. Aaliyah is 8 when she reads it. She doesn't cry. She folds the letter carefully and puts it in the box with the coin. Year 3, Naomi gets a job as a receptionist at a law firm in Brooklyn. She listens. She learns. She asks questions during lunch breaks. A paralegal named Marcus takes pity on her, shows her how to search corporate records, how to trace ownership structures, how to find things people don't want found. She discovers that Rothwell Industries went public in 2003. Valuation, $6.2 billion. The clause activated 21 years ago. And nobody knew. Year 4, they move closer to Manhattan. Not into Manhattan, they can't afford that, but close enough that Naomi can see the Rothwell building from their apartment window. Aaliyah asks why. Because I want to remember what we're fighting for, Naomi says. But Aaliyah sees something else in her mother's face. Not anger. Not even determination. Hunger. Year 5, Naomi contacts Harold Bennett directly. She doesn't go through assistants or receptionists. She finds his personal email, sends him scans of the contract, the letter, the photographs, everything. Subject line, urgent, Rothwell ownership discrepancy. He doesn't respond for 3 weeks. Then, we need to meet. Privately. Do not contact anyone else. They meet in a diner in Queens at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. Harold looks like he hasn't slept. He orders coffee he doesn't drink. He studies the documents for 40 minutes without speaking. Finally, this is real. Naomi's hands shake. I know. If this goes public, if this goes to court, it will destroy him. Good. Harold looks up. Studies her face. Is that what you want? Destruction? Naomi thinks about her father. About the apartment in Gary where the heat didn't work. About the hospital where he died alone because she couldn't afford the plane ticket. About the decades of silence and erasure and lies. I want what's ours, she says. Harold nods slowly. Then we need to do this right. Present day. The boardroom. Minutes after Chapter 5. Graham Rothwell sits down heavily. The executives watch him like prey watching a predator who's just been wounded. Uncertain whether to run or stay still. You want me to remember him, Graham says quietly. Aaliyah nods. That's all? No, sir. Graham laughs, bitter, empty. Of course not. You want the company. You want the money. You want. I want you to say his name, Aaliyah interrupts. The room goes silent. What? Say my grandfather's name. Out loud. In front of everyone. Graham stares at her. At this child who just dismantled his empire with a piece of paper. At her worn shoes and broken backpack and steady, unblinking eyes. He opens his mouth. Closes it. Opens it again. Leonard Monroe, he whispers. Louder. Leonard Monroe. Aaliyah nods. Thank you. She picks up the coin. Turns toward the door. Wait, Graham says. She stops. What happens now? Aaliyah looks back. And for the first time, she smiles. Now, she says, we read the rest of the contract. The boardroom. 30 minutes later. Harold spreads 3 additional documents across the table. The executives lean in. Some stand. Others put on reading glasses they didn't know they'd need today. The CFO's hand trembles as she reaches for her water glass. Graham doesn't move. He sits perfectly still, staring at nothing, like a man watching his life rewind in fast motion. Section 22, Harold says. Remediation protocol. What does that mean? Someone asks. Harold clears his throat. It means that upon activation of the ownership transfer clause, the company is required to establish a fund addressing the systemic issue that necessitated the original contract. Silence. In English, Harold, the COO says. Harold looks at Aaliyah. Then back at the document. Leonard Monroe built the manufacturing system that made this company billions. But he wasn't just building a machine. He was trying to solve a problem: access to advanced manufacturing training for low-income communities. Specifically, communities of color in the Rust Belt. The pieces start clicking. Wait, the CFO says. He wanted to create a training program? He wanted to create an empire of training programs, Harold corrects. Funded by the profits from his invention. But that never happened. Because Graham buried him, someone mutters. Graham's jaw clenches. But he doesn't deny it. Harold continues. Section 22.3 states that if the ownership clause activates, Rothwell Industries must allocate 20% of annual profits to the Leonard Monroe Technical Education Initiative. In perpetuity. Someone does math on their phone. Gasps. That's $400 million. Per year. Minimum, Harold adds. The room erupts again. But this time it's different. This time it's not panic. It's reckoning. An executive near the back, a black woman in her 50s, VP of operations, stands slowly. My father went to trade school in Detroit, she says quietly. He couldn't afford university. He learned welding. He worked 40 years and retired with nothing. Everyone turns to look at her. If this program had existed, she continues, her voice cracking, he could have learned automation. Robotics. He could have, she stops. Sits down. Covers her face. Another voice. A younger man, junior counsel. My uncle worked in Gary. Steel mill. He died when I was 10. Lung disease. Someone else, my mother cleaned houses in Flint. 3 jobs. I was the first person in my family to graduate high school. The stories come like rain. Like confessions. Like grief finally finding air. And Graham Rothwell sits in the center of it, silent, listening to the lives his decisions shaped. The opportunities his choices erased. The generations his greed affected. Aaliyah watches him. She's not smiling now. She's not crying either. She just watches. Finally, Graham speaks. How many people could this program help? Harold flips through pages. Based on current profit margins and conservative growth projections, approximately 15,000 people per year. Within 10 years, potentially 200,000 total. The number hangs in the air like a prayer. Graham closes his eyes. Jesus Christ. There's one more thing, Harold says softly. Everyone looks at him. Harold pulls out a photograph. Old. Faded. Creased from being folded and unfolded too many times. It shows 2 men standing in front of a garage. Both young. Both smiling. One black, one white. Arms around each other's shoulders. A machine visible behind them. On the back, in handwriting Graham recognizes instantly. March 14, 1994. The day we changed everything. Elam. Harold sets it in front of Graham. He kept this in his wallet, Harold says. Until the day he died. Graham picks up the photograph with shaking hands. He stares at it. At Leonard's face. At his own face, younger, hungrier, still capable of genuine joy. He remembers this moment. The garage. The whiskey. The promise. I'll take care of you. I didn't mean for this, Graham whispers. Didn't mean for what? Aaliyah asks. Graham looks at her. To become this. To become someone who does this to people. Then don't be that person anymore, Aaliyah says simply. It's too late. It's not. How do you know? Aaliyah reaches into her backpack. Pulls out a second photograph, this one recent. A young black girl, maybe 8 years old, standing in front of a science fair project. Smiling. Proud. This is my cousin Destiny, Aaliyah says. She wants to be an engineer. But her school doesn't have a science program. And her mom works 2 jobs and still can't afford tutoring. She sets the photo next to the one of Leonard and Graham. You can't fix the past, Aaliyah says. But you can build a different future. Graham stares at both photographs. Past and present. What was lost and what could be saved? He looks at Harold. Draft the papers. Sir? The program. The fund. All of it. Make it happen. Harold blinks. Are you certain? Graham looks at Aaliyah. At this 12-year-old girl who walked into his boardroom and dismantled everything he built and somehow, impossibly, offered him redemption anyway. Yes, he says. I'm certain. Aaliyah nods. Then she does something no one expects. She extends her hand. Graham stares at it. At her small fingers. At the coin still clutched in her palm. He reaches out. They shake. And in that moment, in that boardroom 47 floors above Manhattan, something shifts. Something breaks. Something begins. But Aaliyah isn't finished. "There's someone you need to meet," she says. Brownsville, Brooklyn. 3 days later. Graham Rothwell has never been to this neighborhood before. His driver stops the Bentley outside a 2-story apartment building with peeling paint and broken gutters. A group of teenagers on the corner stop talking to watch. A woman pushes a stroller past, eyeing the car suspiciously. Graham feels exposed. Vulnerable. Out of place. Good, he thinks. Maybe that's the point. Naomi meets him at the door. She doesn't smile. Doesn't extend her hand. Just opens the door wider and says, "She's upstairs." The apartment is smaller than Graham's closet. Worn carpet. Thrift store furniture. But it's clean. Organized. Loved. Pictures cover the walls. Leonard as a young man. Leonard with a woman Graham assumes is his wife. Leonard holding a baby, Naomi, probably. Leonard at Christmas. Leonard at graduation. Leonard old and thin and sick. Leonard everywhere. Graham stops in front of a photo of Leonard in the Detroit garage, covered in grease, grinning at the camera. "He took that the day before you signed the contract," Naomi says behind him. Graham doesn't turn around. "I remember." "Do you?" "Yes." "Then why did you do it?" Graham closes his eyes. "Because I convinced myself I deserved it more." "Why?" "Because he was, because I thought." Graham stops. Tries again. "Because I grew up being told people like me built things. And people like him didn't." The words hang ugly and naked in the small room. Naomi's voice is cold. "People like him. I don't believe that anymore. I don't." "My father died believing he failed," Naomi cuts him off. "He died thinking he wasn't smart enough. Wasn't business savvy enough. Wasn't enough. You made him believe that." Graham turns. Naomi's face is hard. Dry. She's not crying. She's past crying. "You didn't just steal his money," she continues. "You stole his story. You erased him. Made him disappear. Made him nothing. I know. You don't." "You're right," Graham says quietly. "I don't." They stand in silence. The radiator clangs. Voices drift up from the street. Finally, Naomi speaks. "He used to tell me stories about you. In the beginning. Before everything went wrong. He said you were brilliant. Visionary. He said working with you was the best thing that ever happened to him." Graham's throat tightens. "He trusted you," Naomi says. "Completely. And you used that trust to destroy him." "Yes." "Why are you here, Mr. Rothwell?" Graham looks at the photographs again. At Leonard's face in every stage of life. Present in this apartment. Remembered. Loved. "Because I want to help," Graham says. "We don't need your help. We have the contract." "I know. But he stops. Starts over. "Your daughter asked me to remember him. I want to do more than that. I want to honor him." Naomi laughs, sharp, bitter. "Honor him? You? I know I don't deserve." "You're right. You don't." Graham nods. "Then tell me what I can do." Naomi studies his face. Looking for something. Sincerity, maybe. Or just a new angle, a new manipulation. She doesn't find either. What she finds is exhaustion. And guilt. And something that might be genuine regret. "Come with me," she says. She leads him down a narrow hallway to a small bedroom. Aaliyah sits on the floor surrounded by notebooks, sketches, printed articles. She looks up when they enter. "Hi," she says. Graham nods. "Hi." "Sit," Aaliyah says, gesturing to the floor. Graham hesitates. Then lowers himself to the carpet, expensive suit and all. His knees crack. He feels old. Aaliyah pushes a notebook toward him. "This is the plan." Graham opens it. Pages and pages of handwriting. Lists. Diagrams. Budget projections. Partnership proposals. Location scouting for training centers. Curriculum outlines for robotics, manufacturing, coding, engineering. "You did all this?" Graham asks. "Me and Mama. And Mr. Bennett helped with the legal parts." Graham flips through pages. The detail is staggering. The ambition is breathtaking. The scope is. "This isn't just a program," Graham says slowly. "This is an institution." "Yes, sir." "This is, Aaliyah, this is a 50-year vision." "I know." "You're 12. Aaliyah looks at him steadily. "My grandfather was 31 when he built your empire." "How old were you when you decided to steal it?" The words hit like a fist. Graham sets the notebook down carefully. "What do you need from me?" "Everything," Aaliyah says simply. "I don't understand." "I need your name. Your connections. Your credibility. I need you to call every senator, every CEO, every university president you know and tell them this matters. I need you to use every bit of power you spent 30 years building and put it towards something good." Graham stares at her. "Why would you trust me to do that?" "I don't trust you," Aaliyah says. "But I trust the contract. And I trust that you're smart enough to know this is your only chance at redemption." Silence. Then Naomi speaks. "There's something else you need to understand." Graham looks at her. "My father forgave you," Naomi says. "Before he died. He was angry, yes. He was hurt. But he forgave you." Graham's vision blurs. "Why?" "Because he said holding on to hate would kill him faster than the disease. And he wanted to die at peace." Naomi's voice cracks. "He died at peace, Mr. Rothwell. Can you say the same about how you're living?" Graham can't speak. Can't breathe. The tears come before he can stop them, silent, hot, decades overdue. He covers his face with his hands. And in that small bedroom in Brooklyn, surrounded by the ghost of the man he betrayed, Graham Rothwell breaks. Aaliyah and Naomi let him. They don't comfort him. Don't touch him. They just let him feel it. All of it. When he finally looks up, Aaliyah hands him a tissue. "We start Monday," she says. Graham nods. "Monday. Don't be late." "I won't." Aaliyah extends her hand again. Graham takes it. And this time, the handshake means something different. Not a deal. A promise. Manhattan. Leonard Monroe Technical Education Initiative Headquarters. 18 months later. The ribbon is red. Aaliyah holds the oversized scissors, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions, a crowd of 200 gathered on the sidewalk outside the converted warehouse in Long Island City. The building used to make textiles. Now it will make futures. Naomi stands beside her daughter, hand on her shoulder. Harold Bennett is there, looking proud and exhausted. The Rothwell Industries board members cluster to the side, some genuine, some obligatory, all aware that the world is watching. And Graham Rothwell stands at the back, quiet, letting this moment belong to someone else. Aaliyah cuts the ribbon. Applause erupts. Inside, the space is transformed. State-of-the-art equipment. 3D printers. CNC machines. Robotic stations. Virtual reality training modules. Classrooms with floor-to-ceiling windows. A library stocked with technical manuals and engineering textbooks. A cafeteria serving free breakfast and lunch. And everywhere, photographs. Leonard Monroe in the Detroit garage. Leonard at his workbench. Leonard holding blueprints. Leonard smiling. His face on every wall. His name on every door. His story told in plaques and displays and video testimonials from people who knew him. Not erased. Never again erased. Remembered. The first cohort is 45 students. Ages 16 to 63. Black, Latino, Asian, white. Single mothers. Former inmates. High school dropouts. Immigrants. People the system forgot or never saw in the first place. They sit in the auditorium, nervous and hopeful, as Aaliyah takes the podium. She's 13 now. Taller. More confident. But still wearing Target flats. My grandfather believed everyone deserves a chance, she begins. Not a handout. A chance. A real one. With tools and training and people who believe in you. She looks out at the faces. Sees herself in them. Sees Leonard. This program exists because he never stopped building. Even when people tried to stop him. Even when he had nothing. He kept building. Her voice cracks. She steadies herself. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to build. And when we're done, we're going to teach other people to build. And when they're done, they're going to teach more people. And it's never going to stop. Applause. Tears. Someone shouts, yes. Aaliyah steps down. An instructor takes her place, a woman who used to work in the Rothwell Industries factory before automation eliminated her job. Now she's teaching the automation. Full circle. Year 2, 11 centers across 8 cities. Detroit. Gary. Flint. Baltimore. Philadelphia. Cleveland. St. Louis. Atlanta. Rust Belt and beyond. Everywhere manufacturing died and left communities bleeding. 3,000 students enrolled. Year 3, national media attention. 60 Minutes does a feature. The New York Times runs a front-page story. Forbes calls it the most ambitious corporate reparations program in American history. Graham Rothwell is interviewed. He's asked if this is a publicity stunt. No, he says simply. This is repayment. For what? He looks directly into the camera. For 30 years of theft. The interview goes viral. Year 4, partnerships with major universities. MIT. Georgia Tech, Carnegie Mellon. Howard. They create pipelines from Leonard Monroe programs to full engineering degrees. Scholarships. Mentorships. Guaranteed internships. The first graduate, a 19-year-old from Gary named Marcus, gets hired by NASA. He keeps a photograph of Leonard Monroe in his cubicle. Year 5, legislative impact. 3 states pass laws requiring corporations to invest in workforce development. The Leonard Monroe model becomes the template. Senators cite it in speeches. Presidential candidates mention it in debates. The ripple becomes a wave. Present day. The initiative's annual gala. Manhattan. 1,500 people fill the ballroom. Donors. Students. Graduates. Politicians. Celebrities. Press. Aaliyah, now 16, gives the keynote. She's poised. Articulate. A young woman who knows exactly who she is and what she's building. We've trained 12,000 people, she announces. In 5 years. 12,000 people who now have careers in manufacturing, robotics, engineering, and technology. Applause. But that's not why we're here tonight, she continues. We're here because one of those 12,000 people is going to train 12 more. And those 12 will train 12 more. And in 20 years, we won't be talking about 12,000. We'll be talking about millions. The room erupts. Aaliyah waits for silence. Then she says, "There's someone I want you to meet." The lights dim. A screen descends. A video begins. And Graham Rothwell, sitting in the front row, sees Leonard Monroe's face fill the screen, not a photograph this time, but actual footage, recovered from an old VHS tape found in storage. Leonard in the garage. Young. Alive. Speaking directly to the camera. "If you're watching this," Leonard says, "then I'm gone. But the work isn't. The work never is. Keep building. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Because the world needs builders. It always has. It always will." The video ends. The room is silent. Then someone starts clapping. Then another. Then everyone. A standing ovation for a man who died broke and forgotten. Now remembered by thousands. Graham stands too. Tears streaming. Clapping until his hands hurt. And for the first time in 30 years, he feels something he'd forgotten existed. Peace. Detroit. The original garage. Present day. The building has been preserved as a historical landmark. Bronze plaque outside, "Here, Leonard Monroe built the future." Inside, they've recreated the workspace exactly as it was in 1994. The workbench. The tools. The original prototype of the manufacturing system, restored, functional, behind glass. And today, on the 32nd anniversary of the contract signing, Aaliyah stands in the center of it. She's 17 now. Graduating high school in 2 months. Accepted to MIT with a full scholarship she doesn't need but earned anyway. Already running a multi-million-dollar initiative that's changed thousands of lives. But today, she's just a granddaughter. She places flowers at the base of her grandfather's portrait. Touches the coin in her pocket, still there, always there. "I kept the promise, Grandpa," she whispers. Behind her, Naomi weeps quietly. Harold stands respectfully distant. And Graham Rothwell sits on a folding chair near the door, old now, retired now, spending his days volunteering at the training centers and trying to make amends for a life built on theft. He doesn't speak. This moment isn't his. The door opens. A young girl walks in. 8 years old. Black. Braids. Wide eyes taking in the space with wonder. Her name is Destiny. Aaliyah's cousin. The girl from the photograph. "Is this where you worked?" Destiny asks. Aaliyah nods. "This is where it all started." "Can I touch it?" "Yes." Destiny approaches the machine carefully. Places her small hand on the glass. Studies the gears and pistons and circuit boards. "It's beautiful," she whispers. "It is," Aaliyah agrees. Destiny turns. "Mama says you're going to change the world." Aaliyah smiles. "I'm going to try. Can I help?" "Absolutely." Aaliyah reaches into her pocket. Pulls out the coin. Holds it so Destiny can see. "My grandfather gave this to me," Aaliyah says. "When I was younger than you. He told me to stand straight. Even when I was alone. Especially when I was alone." Destiny nods solemnly. "I'm giving this to you now," Aaliyah continues. Not because I don't need it anymore, but because you might need it someday. When things are hard. When people don't believe in you. When you have to stand alone. She presses the coin into Destiny's palm. Closes her small fingers around it. Promise me you'll remember, Aaliyah says. I promise. They hug. Tight. Long. The kind of hug that transfers strength. When they separate, Destiny looks at the coin. Traces the initials with her finger. LM plus AM. What do I do with it? She asks. Aaliyah kneels to eye level. You carry it. And when you're ready, when you've done something that matters, something that helps people, you pass it to someone else. And they pass it on. And it never stops. Like a chain? Like a promise. Destiny nods. Tucks the coin carefully into her pocket. Then she looks at the machine again. I want to build things like Great-Grandpa Leonard. Then you will. How do you know? Because you're a Monroe, Aaliyah says. And Monroes don't stop building. Outside. Sunset over Detroit. The garage sits on a corner lot, surrounded by renewal. New businesses. Renovated homes. A community garden. A mural of Leonard Monroe covering the side of the adjacent building, 40 feet tall, smiling, tools in hand, caption reading, he built. We build. It never stops. A crowd has gathered. Reporters. Students. Community members. They're here for the anniversary ceremony, the official dedication of the garage as a national landmark. Speeches are made. Tears are shed. Destiny cuts a ribbon with oversized scissors and cameras flash. But Aaliyah steps away from the crowd. Finds a quiet spot near the mural. Looks up at her grandfather's face. And she imagines him looking back. Proud. Surprised. Maybe a little overwhelmed by what his stubbornness and refusal to quit has created. We did it, she whispers. We kept the promise. A voice beside her, he'd be proud. She turns. Graham stands there, hands in pockets, old and tired and sincere. Thank you, Aaliyah says. For what? For showing up. For doing the work. For proving people can change. Graham nods slowly. I don't deserve your forgiveness. You're right, Aaliyah says. You don't. They stand in silence. Honest. Uncomfortable. Real. Then Aaliyah adds, but my grandfather forgave you. So I'm trying to do the same. Graham's eyes glisten. I'll spend the rest of my life earning that. I know. They turn back to the mural. To Leonard's face watching over the neighborhood he came from, the city that shaped him, the legacy that will outlive them all. What's next for you? Graham asks. MIT. Engineering degree. Then I'm coming back here. Why? Because this is where it started, Aaliyah says. And this is where it continues. She looks at Destiny, still clutching the coin, talking excitedly to reporters about becoming an engineer. We're not building a program, Aaliyah says quietly. We're building a movement. And it's never going to stop. Graham smiles. No. It's not. 5 years later. The Leonard Monroe Initiative operates in 43 states. 87,000 graduates. 400,000 lives impacted. 13 federal policy changes. Leonard Monroe's name is taught in business schools as a case study in visionary design. In engineering programs as a pioneer of adaptive manufacturing. In social justice curricula as an example of systemic change. Not forgotten. Not erased. Not buried. Remembered. Honored. Alive. 10 years later. Aaliyah Monroe is named one of Time's 100 most influential people. The cover shows her standing in front of the Detroit garage, wearing Target flats, holding blueprints, smiling. The headline, "The Builder." Inside, the article opens with a quote from her grandfather. "Keep building. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Because the world needs builders. It always has. It always will." 20 years later. Destiny Monroe, now 28, opens the 300th Leonard Monroe Training Center. She's an engineer at Tesla. A board member of the initiative. A mentor to 43 students. And in her pocket, she still carries the coin. LM plus AM. She looks at it before every big decision. Before every speech. Before every moment when she has to stand alone. And she remembers the promise. Stand straight. Keep building. Pass it on. Thank you for witnessing this story of justice, memory, and promises kept across generations. If you found yourself moved by Aaliyah and Leonard's journey, by a grandfather who never stopped building and a granddaughter who refused to let him be forgotten, please share this story with someone who needs to remember that one act of integrity, one refusal to stay silent, can rewrite not just a life, but an entire legacy. What do you think was in the final clause Leonard left behind? The one mentioned at the end of Chapter 1, the secret that could send someone to prison? What truth was powerful enough to make a billionaire's empire tremble? Comment below with your theories.